Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Hockett. Welcome to part two of Republic or Democracy. Last time we talked about the tensions and stresses that our nation's structure and decision making process have caused. A lot of tension. America's a republic, a collection of states that uses representative democracy as its decision making process. But the division in today's America worries me. We're not supposed to be just America, we're supposed to be the United States of America. As we continue our discussion, I want you to think about the historical growth of this nation. And let's get a timeline down, okay? We declared independence on July 4th, 4th of July, 1776. We'd been fighting the British just the year before, and we spent 8 years battling until 1783. It took 6 more years for Americans to get organized and to write and ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1789. So 13 years from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution. It was when that Constitution was ratified that Benjamin Franklin was asked, what kind of a structure do we have? And he says, it's a republic if you can keep it. There's a fact that I want to spit out here that I want you to let sink in and I want you to remember. At the time of our nation's founding, the population was right about 2.5 million people. That doesn't count Native Americans that lived across the land that would eventually become, 50 states, numerous territories. Today, our population is right around 331 million people. 2.5 million when we started, now it's 331 million. So we are 132 times bigger than those quaint early days. That's massive growth of population, isn't it? But here's another important measure. The land that was held by the 13 original colonies was pretty big. It was most of that eastern seaboard, not including Florida. 430,000 square miles. 430,000 square miles, the original colonies. Today, America holds more than 3.6 million square miles. So we had not only a huge amount of population growth, but our land mass has also grown by 8.3 times since we were founded. It's a huge country with a huge population. So here's the thought question. Do you think that those founders of America, Washington and Madison and Hamilton and Benjamin Franklin and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson imagined in their wildest dreams that there would someday be 50 states with 331 million people? No way. No way could they imagine that. Here are another couple of facts. 47% of America's land mass today is undeveloped and unoccupied. I know that's a shocker. Nearly half of America is wide open space. Now realize that a lot of that it's very inhospitable. It's very hot and dry, expansive desert in the southwest and the trackless tundra of Alaska. So 47, almost half of the nation land mass is not occupied, undeveloped. 83% of Americans live in urban areas, in cities. By 2050, it's estimated 89, almost 90% of America's population will live in urban areas, and urban areas defined as densely developed residential, commercial, non-residential areas. The reason I'm pointing these things out is that inside of that clash between the Republic of States and their rights and democracy and the rights of the people to retain the power of the government, we have now considerable difference between rural living and city living. New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago all have more population as cities than all of the 13 original colonies combined. But despite concentrations in cities, we still have those wide open spaces, prairies, deserts, huge tracts of uninhabited or sparsely inhabited areas. So, I suggest that our differences in many ways are caused by significant differences in the perspectives that we have. City folks don't look at things the same way as rural folks, as country people look at. Now, forgive me if I generalize a bit here, but rural folks often make a living off of their own land. Farming, ranching, even hunting and fishing. And many are rightly proud of their accomplishments. The pace is slower, but the work is very hard and often from sunup till sundown. Rural folks also may have larger animals like horses, cattle, and other herds. People in America's heartland feel great pride in helping to feed the nation. Most rural folks love their neighbors, but you know what? They're also happy that their nearest neighbor may be a few miles away. By definition, rural folks do not have quick access to city facilities and services like law enforcement or fire protection. And most rural folks own firearms. Urban people, again, more generalization, urban people often find themselves in offices or providing services. Full-time jobs are usually 40 hours a week on a predictable schedule. They too are proud of what huge communities can do with regard to public facilities like libraries and museums and centers of learning and wonderful parks and even sports facilities. Urban centers are known for infrastructure, bridges and massive highways, even skyscrapers. Urban folks learn to deal with population density, and they look for conveniences like public transportation, lots of food options, lots of entertainment, and quick response, public safety. Okay, so you're not going to find a theater that seats 1,000 people in a little town of 600 people, right? And you're not going to find a 1,000-acre wheat field in downtown Houston. My point today is that these perspectives cause clashes that are quite predictable. I've had family members from rural America tell me, you know what, I don't like cities. Too busy, too much crime. They scare me. I can't find my way around. I've heard urban kids say, why do we want to go to the country? There's nothing there. Do you have a phone signal or internet? Or, I'd rather stay in civilization. So the tension between states and the tension that comes from trying to protect voting with free and fair elections is compounded by wildly differences in perspective, depending on where you live. Of course, there are all those places in between, suburban areas, small farms close to town, whole towns that get their identity from maybe a local university, and many towns that get their identity from tourism. But different perspectives cause deep differences, especially about governance. A rancher might question being taxed so that a swimming pool could be built in town, but town is 60 miles away. A city person might advocate for an $18 minimum wage so that their neighbors can afford to live near where they work at a fast food place, not realizing that to impose that on a ranch may not work. Another city dweller might not want to pay for highways that connect the most rural areas to the rest of us. This is precisely why most sweeping legislation becomes complex in a hurry, because legislators want to find solutions for all people. A good idea can quickly become hundreds of pages as it's modified and amended. Land use laws, taking into account conservation or ecology, have always been contentious. No one likes to own land only to be told that there's a bunch of restrictions on its use. City people are used to zones and building codes. Rural folks, for the most part, would like not to be told how to use their land. City folk, long used to a high level of diversity, not only with regard to skin color, but with regard to sexual choices, have a much more accommodating view of such. If you live in rural areas, you may well not know many, if any, people of color, much less a gay or a trans person. It doesn't mean that rural people are bad. It's just a fact that rural life means less contact with the larger population. I suggest that one way to bridge the gap is for city folks to become aware and stay aware of the rural population, and vice versa. Rural folks must remember that a majority of folks live in cities and have legitimate needs for their pursuit of happiness that doesn't involve working their own land. One thing's for sure, living in the country or living in the city doesn't make you good or bad. Being a person of character is what makes you good. Further, living in the country or the city doesn't make you right or wrong, but it does make governing more challenging. Can we overcome the divide? My hope is that just putting forth the effort to learn about each other will soften some of the anger and assuage some of the fear. You see, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness need to be protected for everybody, rich or poor, white or black, rural or urban. I'd love to hear your suggestions. That's enough for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Tim Hawkins. Hey, before you go, I want you to know that I'm just trying to do my part to help us overcome crippling division in America. You can really help by subscribing, by watching these videos, and by sharing them with others. Hope you have a great day.